Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Miss Sonia David, who is the founder at Mindful Mesmerism, helping individuals revive and rejuvenate from their emotional and situational distress. Hi Sonia, welcome to ELI.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Sonia, I'd request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Hi, I'm Sonia David. I'm 26 years old. I'm not that old and all. A lot of people think I'm too young or I'm either too old. I'm currently doing my PhD in psychology. I've been learning psychology and studying it conventionally for the past 7 years. I have also been practicing psychology for the past 3.5, 4 years. And yeah, and this is something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to kind of get involved in mental health and promoting mental health. And yeah, I think that's pretty much about me. Yeah.
Sonia, tell us more about mindful mesmerism. What problem it solves in our society, and what kind of impact and reach you have made so far.
Mindful Mesmerisms is a mental health initiative in Bangalore. We have been working towards promoting positive mental health through various techniques of expressive art therapies, through individual and group counseling, as well as through psychoeducational workshops. That's something that we do every week. Yeah, we're just a mental health initiative. Our goal and our focus is to kind of just promote positive mental health in not just in the country but also in the world, with the fact that mental health has been such a taboo in our society today. Some of the myths that we're busting is through mental health and through positive mental health. So I think that's one of the main problems that we're solving today. Also, one of the major problems with other mental health organizations is that they're very unidirectional. Something that we do is we are a group of counselors, clinical psychologists, behavior therapists, as well as bibliotherapists, and we kind of give our clients a holistic experience of therapy. So yeah.
Sonia, coming to my next question, I'd like to understand how it all started. How did you think of becoming an entrepreneur, and what was the step by step process you took to assemble a team and make a venture out of it?
Okay, so it's very it's not like some really cool thing that we started out of a basement or something, but since I was doing my masters, I completed my masters 3.5 years ago, and I've always wanted to kind of reach out to more people. And somewhere down the line, I thought that a lot of educational institutions that I was working with was restricting me in so many ways to kind of just reach out to more people. So this was something that kind of caught my eye. It kind of kept pricking my head. Also, my best friend from college also wanted to just start this off with me. So we had this idea 3.5 years ago during our masters, and it was we always thought that let's just get financially stable first, and then let's start off with our own thing. So in this March, we I lost my job this March, and I was pretty disheartened about it. And I called my friend up and I told her that it's high time, let's do something, because it's COVID and people are in lockdown, and there's a lot of mental health concerns that are coming out. And also during the year, we've lost so many people to mental health, and that's something that really just caught my eye and really wanted me to reach out to more people and help them understand and be sensitive about these concerns and tell them that it's real. So I think that passion kind of drove us into starting Mindful Mesmerisms. We just got registered as a private limited company, so we are not an NGO. A lot of people think we're an NGO, but at the end of the day, we have to pay our bills too. But I do believe that our motive and our vision is way higher than the kind of money we make, or how less of money minded we are. Coming to our team, it's just three of us right now. We do have a psychiatrist who comes in and goes, so he's not full time. Also, there's just, as I told you earlier, we are there's a counselor, there's a clinical psychologist, and there's a bibliotherapist. So all three of us are working without getting paid, because this is what we believe in. We want to kind of reach out to more people and promote positive mental health. So yeah.
Okay. Speaking of vision, I would like to understand with what vision did you start this venture? Of course, you have given us a brief, but what is the vision statement you are chasing right now?
So, our vision statement is promoting positive mental health through more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversations. We believe that if you start talking about your problems, it becomes more mentionable and it becomes more manageable. This is one of our ideologies by Fred Rogers, and we definitely work towards, inculcating that in not just our therapy, but also in our personal lives. Our vision is basically just including a lot of mindfulness techniques, a lot of nature based therapies. Not sure if that's the right term, but basically just allowing the individual to become autonomous in their decision making, and to let them know that it's okay to have low days, and it's okay to fall back, or it's okay to hit rock bottom, but we're here to kind of help you out and to kind of bounce back up. So that's basically what we stand for. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I would like to understand what are the different challenges you have gone through or are going through right now. I understand you have been only it's been only 9 months or so, but
Yeah.
would like to understand what are the different challenges you are facing right now.
I think according to other entrepreneurs, and if you look at other startups, one of the main challenges that everyone faces is investment and the amount of money you put in. For us, we pretty much didn't put in any money, and we made money through our workshops. We kind of made a free website. Which is a very weird website, because the most non-technical person on this planet made the website, and that's me. So um, we didn't really put in a lot of money, and we made money, and we give 10% of whatever money we make to an orphanage in Hoskote, which is in Bangalore. It's basically an orphanage for girls, where they're rescued from different brothels, and they're kind of bought in, given education, given shelter, medication, and things like that. So we do free mental health therapy sessions for them. So this is something that we've always been doing. So for us, money was not, ever an issue. But one of our main challenges was kind of reaching out to more people, telling people that it's okay, that mental health is approachable. You need to understand that as easy as it is to go to a doctor in a hospital, it's that easy to come to a mental health professional. And a lot of people still don't understand that. We're still fighting that. I've been fighting that taboo for the past 7 years since I was studying and practicing, and I'm sure every other mental health professional would agree with me. But this was one of our main concerns, that kind of just busting these taboos, letting people know, having more psychoeducative workshops, allowing people to have a safe space for them to talk about things, to have a support group and things like that, because all of this is fairly new in India. And we are the only organization that has free support groups. Every other organization has a paid support group, and for us, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about the money for us, and it's just about kind of helping people to understand that it's okay wherever they are, it's okay, and suicide is not the option. It's never an option. So I think that's what, yeah. Yeah.
What was the first day of entrepreneurship like for you? How did everything uh, uh, come together? And when I say everything, it would be your team and the different resources you would need to build a venture. How everything came together? Can you share a few details from the first day, week, and month? What are the things that were happening?
Sure. We actually, so initially we were like, do you really want to do this? Do you think it's okay to, like go ahead with this? Do you think we made the right choice? So there was a lot of introspection, there was a lot of questioning. And then we were like, listen, like, let's leave all of those doubts behind, and let's just do this, because our cause is more important. And I think the first day was, pretty much about how do I open a website, or how do I just inform people that we are here and there's something called mindful mesmerism. So I think our first day was pretty much just getting our website started, designing it and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Um. Uh, Now I would like to understand what has been your learning as an entrepreneur so far, which can shorten the learning curve of other entrepreneurs who are just starting out.
Okay. So I think one of the very recent learnings was that we always thought that people like us, and there are lots of positive people out there, and then you always have certain people who have like ridiculously negative things to say. And I think for other entrepreneurs who are listening and who are beginning to start off, I'd really like to let them know that it's okay to make enemies, and you don't have to be a people pleaser at all times. And if you don't make enemies, I think that's when you're doing something wrong. So please make enemies and please learn from them, and please stay humble. For me, it was such a humbling experience. There were times where I was sitting and just cleaning my cabin, and there would be times where I was just doing clerical work as an entrepreneur, and my jobs were so flexible and stuff that I've never done before. So it was so much of learning for me. Though it was very humbling. So I think with the right attitude, any entrepreneur can you know um, go ahead and be successful. And for me, a lot of people think I'm successful, but except me. And I don't think I'm successful at all. After achieving so much, I still feel that I haven't achieved enough. And I think that's the way to go, because if you feel that you've achieved too much, then your collars are high up and you're flying on cloud nine, and there's no point of um, working harder. So I think finding reasons to work harder every single day was the biggest learning point for me. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. The statement you made, making enemies. That On that note, I would like to ask another question to you. Tell us some instances where you have made enemies while being an entrepreneur.
Okay, so I really hope I don't make more enemies after you speaking about this incident. But I think we've had one incident where there was a miscommunication with the timing of one of our workshops, and there was a woman who uh, had a concern, and we had mentioned it on the WhatsApp group that, hey, see you guys at the workshop at this time. And poor thing, she didn't see at that time. She didn't see her phone at that time, and the only thing she had to say to defend herself was, everybody else was lucky enough to check their phones before the workshop began except me. And I said, no, don't worry, like, there are more workshops to come, so don't worry about it. And because of that, she was not eligible for her certificate because she had to be present on both the days of the training session. And so she kind of made a big scene. She kind of went on social media, defamed us, and we just kind of wished her luck, and were like, I hope you really get well soon, please contact us if you need any help. And have a wonderful year ahead and things like that. So we could completely sense her sarcasm. And see, for me, there are times where it's okay if you have issues, but there's a way of saying it. It's not okay for you to go be immature and go defame us on social media. It's not okay for anybody to do that. And also, if it's the truth, then I'm well and happy and I will support the truth with you. But if it's not the truth, then for me, that's a problem. So we did resolve the issue. We did, apologize to her and tell her that, next time, we'll be more careful. And this is something that we've learned as well. I think that issue kind of got a little out of hand, but it's gotten resolved. So yeah. So that was one incident. And this was very recent. It was last month. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that you lost your job during COVID, and that triggered you to become an entrepreneur. One thing I would like to ask you is how different is entrepreneurship life from a job life?
It's very different because I have never kind of cleaned my cabin or done any administrative or clerical work. And for me to learn that from scratch was not just humbling, but also like do I really need this and do I really need to do this? I would keep questioning myself sometimes. But it's really different because when you're working for somebody else, you're reporting to that person. And when you're working for yourself, there's nobody to report to, right? So somewhere down the line, it's up to you to create order or create anarchy. And for me, I want order. I want a system to be into place. But for a lot of people, they like anarchy, and that's the way of their flexibility and creativity. So I think that's where there was a lot of difference. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, not as an entrepreneur, but as a psychologist.
Okay.
Uh, when you hire people into new ventures, that is bit of a challenge, uh, especially people is the hardest challenge that any entrepreneur has to solve, and this is one particular challenge everyone I meet share. So I'd like to understand what would be your approach to understand people who are fit for startup or fit for a journey that is full of uncertainties, full of experiments, etc.
I think for me, it's very subjective to each individual. Like, there are people who have dropped out and still become millionaires and billionaires, and then there are weird people like me who are studying for the past I don't know 26 years and still doing what they want to do. So it really does depend from person to person. I think the right attitude is more important, and that's something that all entrepreneurs have in common and should have in common, I feel. Because if you don't have the right attitude, that kind of distorts a lot of things, such as hard work or humility. And sometimes you might feel very proud of your product, but the other person might not. And if you don't have the right attitude, there might be impulsiveness, or there might be aggressiveness that might come in the way. And I think having the right attitude is so much more important. So yeah.
Okay. I think I have come to the end of the session. Only one or two questions left. Uh,
Okay.
First, tell us how would you suggest our audience to start their journey as entrepreneurs?
um Yeah, so I'm someone who plans way beforehand. I was always one of those really strange children who would study the entire year and not do anything in the last minute. But I know a lot of people who will just study one night before the exam and then go ahead and get grade marks. So I'm one of those who will have everything organized, have everything pre-planned. I have a backup for my backup plans as well. That's just how weirdly organized I am. And I think organization and having a plan of action is so much more important when you're starting your own venture, or when you're actually going out to do something, doing your market research. When you have a plan of action, doing your market research is so much more important. So I think that is something that I would kind of um, yeah, suggest.
Got it. Got it. On this note, I'd like to close the session. If you have any final message, you can share now. Otherwise, uh, I'd close the session.
I don't. I think the only final message that I would have is, no matter what happens, I think it's smarter to understand when to give up and when not to. I think if people are smart enough, they know when to give up on a product and when not to, because sometimes you might just slog too much on a product, even though you know it's not working, even though you know it's going to fail. And I think that is it's not right. So I think being smart enough of when to give up and when to you know um, put your passion right into it is more important. Also, every time when someone says never give up, it's very important to understand when to give up and when not to. So never giving up could have a lot of different connotations, but I believe that you should know when to give up and when not to. So I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. It was a pleasure to host you here at ELI. I think our audience would have got some insights
I hope,
from this
yeah.
video. Thanks for your time, Sonia, and our best wishes for a mindful mesmerism.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Listeners, you can follow Sonia and connect with her on LinkedIn by typing Sonia David. That is it for today's episode. We'll be back with another exciting entrepreneur. Stay tuned to ELI.